Hello, my name is Dio Versailles, and today we're going to talk about the powers and legends of Runeterra. Our categories are always take, usually good, situationally good, fine, do nothing, and actively bad. So these are hard to read, so I'm just going to read them to you, and then I'm going to place them. So the first one is, and we're going to do it in alphabetical order. The first one is Afterlife Forbidden. That's when an ally dies for the first time, summon a haunted tomb. This usually does nothing. That's all. Alternative power source. This is an epic power. Game starts summon a Hextech Observatory. This is situationally good. Certain champions can take a lot of advantage of it. It's free mana. Um, Depending on your champion, it just does nothing, but it's situationally good. Arm to the Teeth is a rare. Allies with equipment or attachments have +2/+2. This is really good on anything that uses attachments or equipment and does nothing on anything else. Battlefield Training is a common. Round start, grant the weakest enemy +1/+1. This is alright, it's fine. It's not like good or bad, it's just fine. A Big Ol' Dust Stash. When you summon a created ally, grant it +2/+2. This is going to be situationally good, like maybe usually good. If you're not creating anything, obviously it's not very good. But if you are creating summoned creatures, then, or if you're summoning created creatures, then it is very good. On something like Nora, it's like S tier. You want to take it always. But yeah, it's not always good. Uh, Black market discount, it's usually good. Uh, there might be better things. This is an epic where round end you reduce the cost of the most expensive card in your hand by 1. There can be better things that you'll take, but it's usually good. Bouncing Blades. I find this to be usually good. It's a common. Round start, create a fleeting Blade's Edge in hand. You can find a lot of uses for it, and a lot of opponents, depending on the adventure, will just have 1 hit point, or a lot of champions can increase the damage of the Bouncing Blades, or the Blade's Edge, so it tends to be usually good. Can't Stop, Won't Stop. It's fine. As epic, where allied buffs, except barrier, are permanent. I feel like a lot of the times it doesn't do anything, but it's fine. It doesn't hurt to have it, I guess. Chilling Prophecy. This I'm gonna put in actively bad. It's a rare. Game start, summon a frozen thrall, set its countdown to 5. Usually, you're not getting to 5 rounds, and it takes up board space, so it's kind of actively bad. Converging Timelines is rare. The first time you play a follower each round, pick one of 3 followers with the same cost to transform it into. This is usually actively bad. You usually want the followers that you have in your deck. In a case that you don't, or you take advantage of the transform trigger, it can be fine, but usually it's going to be bad. Counterfeit copies. Common round start, create a fleeting 0 cost counterfeit copies in hand, or counterfeit production is what's called. This is fine. It has a good synergy with Aurelion Soul, where you need to make created cards, and you can use it with something like Jinx to create just more copies in your deck. But I mean, overall, it's not super great. It's just fine. Craftsman Favor, round start, create a fleeting time and dedication in hand. I'm gonna say this is fine. The Craftsman Favor does cost mana, which is a little bit unfortunate, but slowly boosting your champion over time is fine. Crush. This is a common. Allies have Overwhelm. That's usually good. Overwhelm is strong, and you usually want it. Deep Cuts. When an ally strikes the enemy nexus, curse the enemy with Ichor. This is fine. Could be maybe situationally good if you have a wide board, but I mean, normally you're not going to get too much power out of that. Disarmed is a common. Enemies have -1, -0. This is also fine. Like, you're happy to take it if you have no better options, but it's not like something you are really hoping for. -1 is good. Domination is usually good. It's a rare round start rally. Just gives you the attack token every turn. It's usually pretty good. You're almost always attacking with decks. Dragon's Rage, common. When you summon an ally, granted Fury, it is a dragon. It's also fine. Doesn't Not doesn't do anything special, but it can give you a little bit of extra power. Duelist, when you summon an ally, give it Challenger this round. This is fine. Yeah, Challenger is good. It only happens for the first round though, and there's usually better power. Duplicate is copy the first card you play each turn. It is a legendary, and you would always take that. Uh, Playing your card twice is obviously very good. Easy prey, game start, summon 2 husks. I'm gonna say this is somewhere between fine and situationally good. Um, in combination with something like big old dust stash, like then it's really good because you're giving everything an extra +2/+2 twice. So yeah, it depends. Elemental winds is situationally good. This is an epic. Your spells and skills do 2 extra damage on something that uses spells and skills. It's incredible. Some of the maybe the best power on everyone else. It doesn't do anything. So situationally, endless wealth. This is somewhere between situationally good and does nothing. So it's a legendary. Get 200 additional gold after each combat encounter. Usually, there's a better option that you can take. But like if you're using Bounty Hunter's Renown, for example, then it's incredible. Or if you just need extra gold for some reason, if you find it as your first power, that can really change how you interact with shops. If you find it near the end of the game, it's terrible. So I'm going to put in situationally good. Endurance, common, when an ally survives damage, granted +1/+1. Go ahead and say that's fine. Feebling Strike, when you damage an enemy, reduce its power by the damage dealt. This is actually usually good power for a common. It's actually, kind of incredible. It's especially good on, let's say, Caitlyn or Jinx, anything that has indirect damage. But even if you're like trading, reducing the power of whatever you're trading into tends to be pretty good. Evolution, allies have +1/+1 for each keyword. This is usually good. Um, a lot of the things that you get have keywords, so they're good. Explosive entrance, when you summon an ally, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is usually good, but maybe situationally good is more accurate. Um, if you're summoning a lot of things, it's better, but you're usually summoning something. So it's usually pretty good for just doing some extra damage. Explosive Finale, when an ally dies outside of combat, deal 4 damage to the enemy nexus. I'd say this is situationally good. If you have the ability to kill something outside of combat, it can be absolutely incredible. Um, on things that can do that, I would put it as an always take. It's very, very good. But if you don't have a way to kill something out of combat, then it's not very good. Fast deal, round start, draw 1, and give it fleeting. And you discard a card, create a copy of it in your deck. I'm gonna say that's usually good. It's extra draw, and there's no downside to it. Sometimes the discarding is an upside for certain things that do end up discarding a lot. So yeah, that's pretty good. Feral Senses, round start, create a fleeting feral presence in hand. So lets you predict. I say it's fine. I don't know. Maybe it's usually good. But I think fine is fine for it. Fixer upper round start, give your weakest ally +3/+3 this round. This is fine. You can usually find something better, but it does make um your weakest ally pretty invincible, which is nice. Flexible game plan, game start, draw 2. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's fine. Extra draw is good. Usually on some champions, you already have hand space issues. That's actually not very good, but overall it's fine. I don't think it usually changes very much. But having an extra card might help you draw into your champion, which would be good. But there's usually a better option. Gearing up, game start, summon 2 armed gearheads. This is fine. Can be very good with things because they have a tune. So if you're playing a lot of created spells, like on Jinx or something, you could get those pretty big. Um, yeah, and sometimes just having 2 blockers to start is good, but I don't know. I think it's not. I think usually you're going to be looking for something better. If you're playing like a 6-star Misfortune with Shock and Awe, it's literally the best power. But aside from that, it's I think just fine. Grander Plaza is an epic. When an ally is summoned, give it +2/+2 challenger and a random keyword this round. This is usually good. You can take a lot of advantage out of that with the +2/+2 stats. I find it to be one of the better powers generally. Grit, allies have attack, grow my power to match my health. I say usually this just does nothing. Usually things have higher attack than health, and if you start losing health from, getting blocked or blocking, then it is bad. And it just doesn't do anything. Haunting Hall, allies have hollowed. I think usually this does nothing. You have to kill them to actually get advantage of it, and usually your games are ending within, let's say, 6 turns, so you're not going to actually trigger this very often. You can move it to fine, but I don't know. I'm not, whatever, it's not particularly good or anything. Higher education, when you draw a card, give allies +1/+0 this round. This is fun. Maybe situationally good. Some champions can draw a lot, and if they do that, then it's very, very good. Hold it, round start, stun the strongest enemy. This is usually good. It's almost close to an always take for me. Um, yeah, just being able to stun the strongest enemy makes everything so much safer. Hold them off, round start, frostbite the strongest enemy this round. Similar reasons for hold it. Don't take the two of them together, they don't interact well. In my sights, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. Can't talk. I say that's fine. Inheritance, when an ally dies, grant its power to a unit in hand. This is usually good. Preserving your power, no matter how much your units die, tends to be very strong on things where you're making ephemeral units like Viego. It's incredible. Level up is game start. Shuffle 10 level 2 champions into your deck. They cost 1 less. I usually don't take this, but on certain champions it's very good. It's not bad. Like if your champion is weak and having random champions in your deck is better than that, then it would be good. But like, I don't know, overall your deck usually just kind of functions, and adding more to it isn't necessarily ideal. Ally in wait is allies that cost 3 or less are lurkers and have lurk. This is fine. It, if you have like evolution, then it's good because it's an extra keyword. If you're playing bard, it's good, but I mean normally it's just fine. Little buddies, round start, summon a random 1-cost Poro. This is honestly close to an always take for me. Um, Having a 1-cost blocker every round is pretty strong. I may just throw it in usually good because you're not like actually always going to take it, but eh, it's my list. It's an always take. You always take it. Um, it would be like the bottom of always take though. Mana flow is next. It's an epic game start. Get a mana gem. This is an always take. I'm not ordering anything else, but I just feel like Little Buddies is so close to the edge here. Memory game. Round start, create in hand a fleeting copy of the last non-fleeting card you played. Somewhere between usually good and situationally good. It's not, I don't know, whatever. We'll put in usually good. Sometimes it can mess with your hand space, but usually you want to be playing the spells that you just played, so it's pretty good. Mystic Meditation, round start, reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1. This is situationally good if you have spells, very good if you don't. Not as good. Nature's Revenge, when you gain the attack token, summon a sapling. Is usually good. Uh, because saplings have Challenger, it lets you take better attacks, especially if you combine it with something like Big Ol' Dust Stash. Then those saplings can even like kill the thing they're attacking, or even enfeebling strike. You're going to be reducing the damage. If you're like want to take an attack, but there's like a duplicate karma that somehow has 100 defense, you can just throw your sapling at it and then attack with the rest. And yeah, usually it ends up pretty good. New student, game start, summon a sparring student. That's fine. Officer backup, game start, summon a sting officer. I would say also fine. Out the gates, game start summon a 2-cost unit from your deck. It's situationally good. Depending on what 2-cost units you have, it gets better or worse. Yeah. If you don't have any 2-cost units, obviously it's terrible. Over prepared, grant a random equipment in hand, or game start creating random equipment in hand. It costs 2 less. This is fine. Perfected Mana Flow is a legendary round start. Get a mana gem. This is like the most always take of always takes, except for maybe duplicate. And I feel like these two probably switch places depending on your deck. Mana is good. Phalanx, when you target an ally, give it barrier this round. I feel like this just normally does nothing. Phantom Pranks, when an ally dies, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. Depending on the deck, it's very good, so I'm going to put it in situationally good, but it's probably just fine, or maybe does nothing. I mean, it doesn't do nothing, but yeah, I don't know, it's not great. Can be, if you're playing like Kindred, it's incredible. Quick draw, cards you draw cost 1 less this round. This is usually good. Raiding Party, when you damage the enemy nexus, grant the top ally in your deck +1/+1. This varies between like situationally good and does nothing depending on the deck. Like if you have Jinx, then you'll make like one really giant unit, but it's still only one really giant unit. So I'm gonna put in does nothing. Kind of doesn't do anything. Reset, game start, create 3 chrono breaks in your deck. If you ever drew those chrono breaks, it would be incredible, but you don't, so it does nothing. Reunited, allies have +1/+0. That's fine. +1 is good. Rush them down when you summon an ally, give it +1/+1 this round. Same idea here, it's just fine. Seat of Power, game start summon an Emperor's Dais. This is whenever you attack, you create an attacking Sand Soldier, and that is fine. I don't know what happens when we reach the end here. Share the Bounty, when you target an ally with a single target spell, copy it on your weakest ally. Situationally good, depends on your deck a lot. Some decks you can take like a huge amount of advantage from this, and other decks it doesn't really do very much at all. Sharing is caring, when you summon an ally, grant its keywords to all allies. This is usually good. Like I said, your allies usually have keywords, and so giving everything keywords is good. Slow and Steady, when you play a slow spell, copy it onto the same targets. This is situationally good. If you have slow spells, it can be incredible. Like if you're playing Jace, I would say it's very, very good. But if a lot of things don't have slow spells, so you just don't get any advantage of it. Sometimes, depending on like what happened during your run, you can roll into it, and then it's very good. But you can kind of play it out as you go. Sorcery is round start refill your mana. This is somewhere between always take and usually good. It really depends on your deck, but oftentimes this just really means 3 extra mana. 3 mana is very good. It also reduces the amount you have to think between whether or not you should like play a card or not play a card. So I'm going to put in always take. Spell burn is going to be situationally good. It's when you play a spell, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. If you have a deck that can take advantage of this, this is an incredible thing, but it's not for every deck. Spell Slinger, your spells cost 1 less. This is usually good. Somewhere between usually good and situationally good. Again, if you don't, most decks have a spell, or you're going to roll into something that is a spell, and Spell Slinker is going to be good. I think usually good is fine for it. That's honestly close to an always take, depending on the deck that you're running. Stabilize is when you play a champion summon an exact ephemeral copy of it. I don't know. Somewhere between like fine, situationally good, and usually good. Like it really depends. I'm gonna put situationally good. Like depends on your champion. Stacked against them, the first card you play each round costs 1 less for every 20 cards that started in your deck. This is usually good. The cost reduction is good. Survey Core, game start, summon a green blade lookout. This is maybe one of the better ones of the round start summons. So like between new students, officer backup, vanguard lookout, because it reduces the cost of your most expensive ally in hand by one when you hit with it. I'm going to go ahead and say that it is uh, fine, just like the rest of them. It is fine. And now these are going to be harder to read because I ran out of space. The best defense, allies have attack, grow my health to match my power. This is usually good. Like I said before, most things have more power than attack, usually by a lot too. So you could have like a lot of like 5/2s, and turning them into 5/5 makes them very usable. Titanic Wake, this is when you summon a unit with 8 attack, health, or cost, grant it +8/8. Situationally good. If you have things that are within those criteria, then giving it +8/8 is incredible. Treacherous Terrain, each round the first time the foe summons a unit, frostbite it. This is usually good. Just really slows down your opponents. Trifarian Might, when you summon a 5+ power ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. This is usually good, maybe close to an always take, depending on the deck that it's in. But usually you have something that costs 5 or more, or you can build something up to 5 or more. And in those cases, you're going to find that that is a very powerful thing. Undying Legion is the first time an ally dies, each round revive it. I'm going to put this at like the top of usually good. It's close to an always take. Yeah, maybe it's an always take. I'll put up an always take. This creates a lot of extra safety because you're replaying things. Gives you a lot of ability to block. Yeah, it's pretty good. Unlimited power. Your first spell each round costs 10 less. This is situationally good. Depends on how many spells you have in your deck. I mean, it's going to be like better than Spell Slinger almost always. I put that under usually good. So, I don't know. I think it's still situational. Like, you're not taking advantage of like the -10 very often, but like even subtracting 2 is good. Yeah, let's put in usually good over Spellslinger. It's better than Spellslinger, except in decks that are playing 100 spells around, like Master Yi. You'd prefer Spellslinger, or probably Nami as well. Unstable inventory. Game start, add a random item to each card in your deck. That is usually good. It doesn't always do what you want it to do, and sometimes you're going to want, there's going to be better choices, but it's usually good. Undying Legion, legendary, the first time your Nexus would run out of health each game, heal at 30, and grant allies everywhere +1/+1. This is usually good, but if you don't think that you're going to die, then it kind of does nothing. So it is a good safety option. I wouldn't always take it. There's things I would take above this, but it's really good. If you die, and if you don't die, it doesn't do anything. Aromi Shield, when you play a spell, heal your Nexus 1. If it was elemental, heal it 2 instead. This is situationally good. On things that cast a lot of spells, it's incredible. On everything else, it's whatever. Who cares? Vanguard Lookout. Game start summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. This is fine. It's one of the better defensive options for the free summons, but Vanguard Lookouts aren't very good. Welcome Gifts. When you summon an ally, grant it a random keyword. This is usually good, particularly with sharing is caring or evolution. Yeah, it's usually good. It's an always take on like Bard. And you can roll into life steal, which makes it very good. Wild Inspiration, your created cards cost 1 less. That is usually good. You A lot of decks have created cards, so this ends up almost always just being cost reduction. Whoosh, game start, summon a Vestian Disciple. This is fine. I think it's probably the worst of the summons because it comes back to your hand. I know there's the advantage of you play and you draw a card or whatever, but I don't know. It just costs mana to redo that. And Yip's Genius is situationally good. If you have a lot of 1-cost units, then it's great. And if you don't, then it doesn't do anything. We have like Yip's Genius and Little Buddies. Obviously, that's an incredible combination. You do that with Big Old Dust Stash, and you have a really good thing going. Anyway, those are all the powers. Um, Feel free to disagree, but I think this list is probably going to be close to correct for most people. Um, yeah, feel free to disagree and let me know if you think I am completely off on something. And I'll put this in the description so that you can just link to it and maybe be able to read it because obviously you can't read anything here. All right. Well, thanks for watching. And if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.